first thing that comes to mind is e-logs, and it's kind of pain in the ass, man, using personal conveyance. Four-wheelers cutting you off like pride of drivers on the road having your stick shifter. You know what I mean? Super expensive, man. And parking. How do you know where you're going? It blows my mind.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Hey YouTube, so welcome again to another video here at Trucking Life. Like I said in the intro, I just sitting here and talking about the good old days of truck driving. And for those guys that have been driving as long as I have, if not longer, you guys probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And any new drivers out here, they may not know exactly what we're talking about, right? So I kind of wrote myself a little list down here. So if you see me looking down, I don't want to forget anything that I wanted to talk about. But the very first thing that comes to mind is e-logs, and it's kind of like a love-hate relationship with these e-logs. I've kind of gotten used to it because I've been on them for like the last 10 or something years. But I do remember, at one point where there was paper logs. I used paper logs for the majority of my first years in trucking. And many people have many different opinions about it because most drivers or people that don't drive, the first thing that comes into mind with your login device, whether it be paper or an e-log, is, well, you were just cheating, and that may be true. I mean, there is a couple of times where people would probably cheat, you know what I mean? But it just depends on how big you cheat or whatever. Like, I particularly don't have a problem with the e-log. In my opinion, I actually think it's easier. I mean, you simply stop, put off duty or sleeper or whatever, and you're done. Like, you input your information and you're good to go. What I personally don't like about the e-log is just that there's no flexibility. You know what I mean? Like, let me give you an example. You're gonna go pick up a load, right? And you're there at the guard check or whatever, and they might tell you go to dock 200 or whatever, and it might be all the way around. And let's just say, for example, you slept at that customer's location. Maybe they're at the entrance, or maybe a little dirt lot, or whatever the case may be, but you were there on site, right? Because you're trying to save your time. You don't want to start your logbook up and then it becomes a whole mess. You know what I mean? So you literally have to be going there in the 5-mile-an-hour crawl of death, because as soon as you go over 5 miles an hour, this stupid thing turns on. Or if you're at a dock, and they're loading you up or whatever, and they have you move to a different part of the warehouse or whatever, you're there crawling at 5 miles an hour so that this stupid thing doesn't turn on. And I mean, yes, you do have personal conveyance, but it's just such a pain in the ass, man, using personal conveyance, because there's so many rules against it. Not only federal rules, but also carrier rules. Every carrier has like their own set of rules with personal conveyance. It's gotten to the point right now where I don't even mess with it at all. I'll just log it, because I don't want to deal with it. The moment you get pulled over and you transmit your e-logs to the officer, that's the first thing that they're looking for, personal conveyance. And even if you used it correctly, if you went to Walmart to go shop for groceries in your truck or whatever, like, it's such a gray area, and it depends on who you ask to where you might get in trouble or not. Back in the day, when you had your paper log, you would just go to the store, buy whatever it is you needed to, and then when you would get a load, you would start your logbook up. Like, that's the type of flexibility that I'm talking about. Like, there's just no flexibility at all with this stupid e-log. You go over a second over your 14 hours, and that's it, you're done. And that's not necessarily that you're doing something good, like something bad. It's just shit happens. You might run into an accident on the road, or a detour, or it's closed, or it's slow traffic, whatever. And it's like, I think that most drivers that have been driving out here on the road for a little bit, whether you're a new driver or you're an old driver, You know, the very first thing that everybody always tells you, your dispatchers and all that stuff, well, you should have planned better. How the hell am I supposed to plan for a road closure because of an accident or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, it's not that simple. Where you should have planned better. Like, you don't know what's ahead in the road, you know? So that's kind of like what I miss about the good old times, you know, when it was just paper log. You just had a little bit more flexibility. If they would give these systems a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more leeway to the driver. You know, I remember when they barely installed this e-log in my system, in my truck, you would have a 2 mile radius. You know, even that little bit of flexibility was good, because in the same example, if you slept at a location, you didn't have to be going 5 miles an hour as long as you didn't go over that 2 mile rate. You know, the 2 mile radius, or 2 miles distance, I should say, on the truck. The e-log would stay off, whether you're going 70 miles an hour or you're going 10 miles an hour. As long as you didn't go over that 2 miles, it wouldn't turn on. It would make it a little bit easier, you know. And a lot of the times, I know you guys have dealt with this before, to where you're behind another driver and they're going super slow. They're going slow because of this stupid thing. It doesn't make it safer. I think it makes it worse, because you're constantly always fighting your time. To where with the paper log, it was a little bit better. You know what I mean? So that's about the e-logs right there, you know. The next thing that I got to thinking about was like less regulations, you know. Like, it's so heavily regulated now, to where it's just like you gotta stay on the ball on what's new and what's not new. What was good yesterday is not good today, you know. For example, for my owner operators out there, about that BOI report, um I don't know too much detail about it. All I know is that I did it, but it's a report that you need to file with them that proves the ownership of your company, whether you're a carrier, LLC, whatever. They had it in the beginning of January that you had to do it before January of 2025. And then here, like last week, they took it off, and now it's back on again. It's like, make up your mind. You know what I mean? Like, do we need to do it or do we not need to do it? You know, like, we're on the road. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a little bit more difficult for people to get information and be on the same page. Like, just the regulations of, you can't be doing this and you can't be doing that. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like, I'll give you guys a clear example. And if you don't believe me, look it up in the Green Book or whatever, you know. But, like, it is required by DOT regulation for you to have bedding on your bed. In other words, you have to have a pillow, you have to have a cover and all that stuff on your bed. Like, they could literally give you a ticket over that. Like, having bedding on the bed. You know what I mean? Like, little things like that a lot of drivers don't even think about. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, the regulations is just, it causes more stress, because you're constant. Like, we already have a lot of stuff to deal with. You're dealing with appointment times, trying to get to your shipper or receiver. You're dealing with traffic, accidents, road conditions, detours, other people on the road. You know, them four-wheelers cutting you off, you know, doing stupid stuff on the road. It's already stressful as it is. And if you're an owner-operator, you're also with the stress about your truck. Like, making sure everything's working good, making sure nothing breaks down. Like, it's stressful. And the more regulations you add, the more stress it is. You know what I mean? So, you know, back in the day, when I started driving, like, they used to actually even like promote this, like trucking companies that were trying to get new drivers to come into the industry. You know, the open road, see America while you're getting paid. Like, it used to be cool. Like, it used to be, like, there was more of a sense of like pride, of drivers on the road having pride and trying to do their, you know, the best job that they could. And, you know, it was just like the open road, and you get to get paid for it, you know. And it's like, now it's like, I can see why people don't want to do truck driving no more, you know, because like, there's just all these regulations and crap. And I'll touch more on base on that, you know. Like, for example, on the camera systems that I had made that video. If you guys haven't checked out that video, check this video out. It goes into more in depth, so I'm not really going to do that in this video, you know. But it's like, now we got to have a camera in your face and a camera in the front, you know. It's just like more and more and more and more regulations, you know. And right now, it's not a federal regulation. It was more of a company regulation. And in that video, I talk about Prime, but I'm sure that there's others that are also implementing that same system. It's not too long, guys, to where it's going to be federally mandated, just the way the e-log was. You know what I mean? Like, it's just more crap for you to have to worry about. You know, I remember back in the old days, you know, you had your stick shifter. You know what I mean? You could go purchase a truck and you can get it, you know, standard, you know, versus an automatic truck, and it seems like now in these days, like it's hard. These transmissions are coming harder to get. You know, you can pretty much get them only on older trucks. All these new trucks are automatic, and I don't have nothing against automatic trucks. You know, there's a whole bunch of people like, if you drive an automatic, you ain't a truck driver. That has nothing to do with it. You could drive an automatic transmission and be a safe driver and a reliable driver that does things the right way, that picks up on time, delivers on time. The transmission has nothing to do about it. You know what I mean? In my preference, you know, because I've driven both, I prefer standard. You know, just because it gives you that little bit more control, in my opinion. But there's nothing wrong with the automatic transmissions or whatever. But it's just something that, you know, as times change, like that's something that's starting to get phased out. You know, like now in these days when you want to buy a truck, or even if you go drive for a carrier or whatever, more than likely the truck that they're going to have is going to be an automatic truck. You know, it's not too often that you find, at least like with big carriers, that you find these standard trucks anymore. They're all automatic, you know. And with these automatic transmissions, one of the biggest things that I don't like about them is just they're expensive to repair. You know, it's not like these old transmission. Like, let's just say you lose third gear on your transmission. You can take out that transmission, replace third gear, pop that bad boy back in, and you're good to go. And it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. On these newer style transmissions, you know, these DT12s or whatever, something internally messes up in that transmission and you're shit out of luck. You either get a used transmission, they're $8, $9, $10,000, or you get a new one, which is $15,000, $16,000, or, you know, depending on wherever you're at and wherever you get it. Like, that's expensive, man. Like, I could get a reman brand new transmission, you know, a 10-speed transmission. I think the last time I replaced this one, I think I got it for like $4,000 or something like that. That's more manageable, you know, versus getting a used one that's 10 grand or a new one that's $15,000, $16,000, and that's just the transmission. That's not even getting it installed. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that I think about the good old days. You know, most of your trucks, no matter where you went, were all standard. You know, the rates. You know, I mean, the rates really kind of haven't changed that much. Back in the years where I was doing it earlier on in my years, and to now, like, rates are low and shitty, you know, but like things weren't as expensive as they are right now. You know, like everything right now is super expensive. These rates, it's hard to make money at. Right now, I just came to my truck just to give it a little welfare check, you know, check my tires, make sure I'm not leaking anything, fire the bad boy up, charge the batteries up, get it up to temp, you know, because everything that's on the load board right now is just, it's garbage. You know, it's not worth running it, you know, and it's just, you would figure it being, you know, the New Year's and Christmas week that there would be crazy loads popping up, and that's just not the case. You know what I mean? Parts and service. You know, parts are super expensive, man. And even service, like for these shops or whatever, you know, and I get it. Everything's going up, you know. I mean, it's hard to find a good shop that gives you good service at a decent price and does a good job. And the worst part about it is, you know, like I said, when I'm there at the shop working or whatever, these parts are just garbage sometimes, man. Like, you'll install them correctly, torque sequence, you know, everything by the book, and a lot of these parts come out defective, like right from the box. You know what I mean? And it's hard to maintain a business that way when these parts are just so unreliable now. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like a flip coin. I mean, for the most part, whenever I try to get parts, I do my very, very best to try to find a new part. But the reality of it is, you know, I got the Detroit Series 60 in it, and it's hard to find new parts for it. You know, most of the time they're all going to be reman, even if you go to the dealer. You know, so that's, you know, another thing that I was thinking about. Like, in the old days, in the good old days, you can find newer parts or whatever, and they weren't as expensive. The service was pretty good. You know, it's just, trucking's just changing in that dynamic. You know what I mean? Parking, you know, I run the same route for the most part. And it just seems to me like every single time I take my trips, it's just like, oh crap, now this one's paid parking and that one's paid parking. You know, like, you just can't find a place to park anymore. And if you do, you have to pay for it, you know, and it's like, we're already like barely making money out here. Like, even as a company driver, you know, you got to run a lot of miles to make some good money. And there is some companies that do pay parking and showers and all that stuff, and there's some companies that it's like it's on the driver, you know. And you talk about some of these places are $20, $25, you know. The lowest I've seen, I think, is maybe like $10 a parking, which is usually where I park there in Lake Mississippi, exit 100. They're $10 a parking. I don't think it's too bad, but it's just hard to find parking. You know, you don't want to be on an off ramp, or you don't want to be on the side of the road somewhere, you know, to where you're a hazard to somebody else and it's a hazard for you as well. Like, I remember back in those old days, man. I mean, you can pretty much find parking wherever, you know. And I think part of the main reason because of that is, you know, you got a lot more trucks out here. You got a lot more foreign drivers out here driving these trucks. You know what I mean? And going into a different topic besides parking, you know, that's one of the biggest things that I think has changed in this industry right now. You got all these foreign drivers, you know, that are just coming over here and driving these trucks. And like, I don't have nothing against it, like, as long as it's a legal process or whatever, you know. But it's just like, when you can't even speak the language, like, I'm talking about like zero. You know, I was picking up a load last time I went out, and I don't know what nationality the guy was or whatever, but like, it was literally zero English. Like, he was like trying to communicate with the lady that he was picking up the load with the customer, and he literally had to use Google Translate. Like, zero English. Like, how do you read the signs? How do you know where you're going? If a DOT officer stops you, how are you going to communicate with them? Like, are you going to expect to do it off of Google Translate? What if your phone's not working? Like, how are these drivers here in America not being able to read and write English, man? That's just, it blows my mind. Now, back in the day, yeah, you would see every now and then drivers, but not as much as now. Now it's like every corner you turn, there's a foreign driver right here driving. And again, I have nothing against them or whatever, you know, as long as they're doing things the legal way or whatever, you know. But like, how do you drive the truck? How do you read the signs? Are you going to be putting in Google Translate while you're looking at the sign and rolling? Or how do you do it, man? Like, I just don't understand how you can have a driver out here and they don't speak the language. It's no different if I go drive in Mexico and I don't speak and write, speak, write, or can understand Spanish. That's a problem, because all their signs are in Spanish. Everybody that you go to is going to speak Spanish. I can't go there expecting them for them to speak English. I got to go over there, and I'm the one that has to make an effort to speak Spanish because I'm in their country. You know what I mean? It just blows my mind. It blows my mind. And that was one topic that I didn't even think of, that we just kind of went into the rules. You know what I mean? Self-driving trucks, technology is changing so rapidly to where, you know, I kind of put myself. I'm 39 years old. I started when I was 21. For those of you who are new to the channel, and it's like, if I was a 21-year-old guy right now, would I go into this industry? You know, trucking is hard, guys. That's the reality of it. You know, there's a lot of crap you got to deal with it. And by today's standard, it's not even really a lot of money. You just work more, you know? And like, the thing that I would be questioning would be like, okay, if I want to make a career out of this, you know, they already have AI self-driving trucks on the road right now. The only difference is that you still see a driver there because they're in testing. They're in beta testing. You know what I mean? But it's like, why would I go to an industry where I know eventually it's going to get phased out? Now, I'm going to make a video on self-driving trucks and talk about all of my opinions on that. So we'll keep it brief on this video. But self-driving trucks, what I will tell you is I do think that eventually they are going to replace jobs out there. But I think it's still long away. You know what I mean? But I know eventually it will happen. I don't know if it'll be particularly in my career as I finish it out, or if it's going to be longer or shorter, but I don't know. But we'll get into that video whenever I do make that video on self-driving trucks. But that's my 2 cents on that. To start a truck driving career right now, you know, it's expensive. These schools, I know of one here locally where I live at, where I think it's like $10,000 or $12,000 to get your CDL. You know, back in the day when I started my license. I've told you guys about my start. Check out this video if you guys want to know how I started my trucking career. I started out with Swift, and I think it was like $4,800 or whatever like that. Like it was a little bit easier to get into the industry, and right now it's just so expensive. And it's like when you come out here, it's like it's hard to make money. You know what I mean? So it's just more expensive. Another one of the things that back in the day, when you would drive a truck, like even if you weren't mechanically inclined, like big time, like it was more, as long as you were willing to learn and do something, it was a lot more feasible for you to maybe fix your truck. If something happened to it or whatever, it wasn't so sophisticated the way these new trucks are now. You get these new 2024, 2025s with those beautiful digital displays and all these systems and computers and everything. Like, it's difficult. Like, you gotta know about software, and like it's not just like, okay, repair the wire to the fan clutch and you're good to go. Now everything goes through a computer. It's just so sophisticated right now, to where it's making it harder on owner operators such as myself to stay on top of, because you continue to take your truck to these shops like all the time for everything, you're gonna be out of business. Now, don't get me wrong, it just really depends on where you're at and what happens. You know what I mean? Like, I do all my own repairs, but at the end of the day, if I break down in the middle of nowhere in a city where I don't really know anybody, even if I know how to do the job, more than likely I'm gonna have to look for a shop to do the job, even though I know how to do it, just because I'm in an area where I don't know anybody. You know what I mean? But like even for small repairs, like these new trucks, the systems are so sophisticated to where, like, me personally, I'm still learning about these new systems. Like they're just so sophisticated. It's not just bam bam, let's fix it up and keep on trucking. To where your average guy or gal can do it. You know what I mean? So that's what I miss about these old trucks, that they were easier to work on. They weren't so sophisticated the way they are right now. And I already talked about parts being unreliable, and and they're more expensive, and it's just it's getting difficult out here to operate and make money. Inflation is up there. It's just hard to make a living. I mean, what I want any of you guys that don't drive, or that are maybe looking into becoming a truck driver, like it's not all bad. I mean, for the most part, like it's an okay job, but that's just it. It's just not a job. It's a way of life. Like, you live in this truck when you're out there on the road, and sometimes you're gone days and weeks, or sometimes even months away from the year, from your family or whatever. Like, I really do think it depends on if you're a young guy, or if you're a young girl that maybe doesn't have a family or whatever, then it might work perfectly out for you, because it's not like you're not necessarily trying to get back home all the time to as when you do have a family. But those are the things that I can think about. I'm sure I'm probably missing some things that back about the good old days of truck driving. Oh, one thing that I just came to mind right now: the mom and pop truck stops, man. I used to love them mom and pop truck stops, man, to where you can actually go find a nice parking spot for you to do your 10-hour or do a 34-hour break. And they had nice, decent showers in there, and they had a nice, decent diner in there, to where you can get a nice, good, like, how can I say it? A good, nice home cooked meal away from home. You know what I mean? Like, the food was good. You can get a nice home cooked meal away from the house, and there was a ton of them around. Now you find out is just Petrol, Pilot, Flying J. What do they have in there? The same old crap as everywhere. Denny's, Arby's, McDonald's, Subway, Chester's Chicken, like everywhere you go. Now there's some now here and few and in between, that may have something different. I remember when I used to run up there to Michigan, I think by 75, I think there was a Flying J in there with a Golden Corral in it. I was like shocked that I saw that. I remember one time I ate at that Flying J. It might have been a Pilot or Flying J, but there was a Golden Corral there. But that's one thing that I miss, man. Those mom and pops truck stops where you can always find parking and you can always find something good to eat, and take a nice hot shower. And some of them even had like mechanical services that wouldn't rape you, when you had to fix something on your truck, and now you just got it's just these major chain, truck stops, that are all charging parking now. Like it's just hard to find a good place to stop that is not a major truck stop, but that was just something that came into mind right now. I'm sure I'm probably missing some of them. Any of you drivers that have been out there driving as long as me or even longer than me, or whatever the case may be, that you might think that I missed something, comment down below. Let me know if I missed any topics of the good old days of truck driving. You know what I mean? But that's what I have for you guys today. I hope you guys have a good new year. We already just passed Christmas. I was here with the family. I had a pretty good time, ate some pretty good food, had a couple of laughs with my family and my kids. Now we're looking forward to the new year. I'm actually trying to look for freight. If I end up staying for the new year, then good to go, and if I don't, then too bad. You know what I mean? Like, I gotta work. But I hope you guys have a good new year. I hope you guys like this video. Give me a thumbs up, share the video, comment on the video. We will check you guys on the next one out. Peace out. Stay safe out there, guys.